Hey, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Sorry it has been a little while. It was my birthday and then I was moving, so I took a few weeks off making videos. Thank you so much if you are back here joining me. In today's video, I am going to show you how to recreate clothing from your favourite pieces in your wardrobe. So for example, I have this jumpsuit that I've had for about 6 years now. I absolutely love it. I wear it so often, and I am going to try and attempt to make myself a navy version as well. And I may turn this into a little mini series as I have some trousers and a dress and things like that I also want, so stay tuned for things like that. So this is great if you have a piece of clothing that just fits you so well, you wear it so often and you wish you had it in other fabrics or other colours. If you find a piece in a charity shop and maybe you like the fit but you don't quite like the fabric, you can recreate it. And also, so the jumpsuit that I'm wearing now, I originally bought from New Look. And also, rather than sporting a fast fashion brand, I figured it was more sustainable to make it myself out of a tencel fabric. Let me know in the comments below if you've ever tried to copy any of your favourite pieces of clothing. Let me know how that went. Anyway, let's get into the video. So I've got some pins, a Protractor pencil, tape measure, some paper scissors, my fabric scissors, a pattern master, and I've got some dot and cross pattern paper, and of course the jumpsuit that I want to copy. So I'm just going to undo it now and just have a look at all the different pattern pieces that make it up, the components like the zip and where the seams are and stuff. And then I'm going to lay out my pattern paper and I'm going to use my jumpsuit as the pattern to copy the pattern. So I'm starting with the center front panel on the top, and the top is actually split into two panels, like the center panel and the side panel. So I'm starting with the center panel and I'm just pinning that as flat as I possibly can on the pattern paper. So I'm just pinning along the edge of the seams, and as you can see, this jumpsuit is well loved and quite worn. So yeah, I'm just pinning that flat. And because this centerpiece will probably be cut on the fold, I'm just going to trace around half of it, as this will make it much more accurate. And then I'm tracing around the armhole and marking where seams start and finish as well. And then I'm trying to get it as accurate as possible, so I'm folding all the time and looking back where my markings are. I'm marking on key details like the curve of the seam, where the strap is attached, and then just sketching in the seams. I'm also going to double check all the measurements with my tape measure and just make a note of them. So when it comes to doing my pattern, I make sure that it's the same measurements as the original jumpsuit. So I've just done a little sketch there of the shape, so I can label what sides measure what. So just drawing a straight line in for my center front. This is going to be cut on the fold, and then I'm just joining up all my other sketched lines to give me the correct shape. So it's a bit like working backwards from pattern cutting, because rather than working from blocks, we're working from a garment, and it's really useful to have an idea of what a paper pattern looks like, because it's easier to spot mistakes. So now I'm tracing around the side seam, so again marking on key details like where seams start and finish. And at some points my pencil is actually sharp enough that I can kind of draw through the seam and it shows up on the paper. I do have a tracing wheel, but I couldn't actually find it for this video, which would have been much more helpful. And then I'm just adjusting the curve on these seams just to make sure they look correct, and then going back and checking all my measurements. So I kept laying the top back on my pattern and checking the measurements, and then labeling the patterns, so when I cut them out I know exactly what they are for, and making a note of the size of the jumpsuit as well. So now I've just traced over the curved line from the center piece and then placed that back on top of the curved line of the side seam to see if these seams would fit together. And now time for the back. Now I've got the front seams. So I've drawn a straight line for the centre back because I know that this will be straight, and then I'm pinning the pattern up to match that. So the back is a little bit trickier because it has a dart in. So at the moment I'm going from the centre back to the dart and marking the end of the dart and the top of the dart. And then I'm measuring how wide the dart is so I can add that back into my pattern piece. Also, I've just made a note to add an extra 3 centimeters for the zip as well at the back. So now I've just added that dart back in, worked out where the center point is, where the fold point would be, and I'm going to try and pin the top back on from the other side of the dart, which will mean it has shifted round slightly. Obviously at the moment this jumpsuit is more of like a 3D shape because it's got the darts in it and it's got the seams in it, and I'm working backwards to create it into a 2D shape. So I'm not making any changes to the fit of this jumpsuit because it fits me really well, but if it was an existing garment and I did want to update the fit, then I could definitely do this on the pattern. And again, labeling each pattern piece. I always date my pattern pieces as well. This is a good habit to get into, so you know, say for example, if I did another jumpsuit pattern, I'd know that this is the one that I did in October of 2020. And now for the trouser legs. So this is the front trouser leg. At the moment these are about 3/4 length on me, and I decided that I'd probably extend them to full length. So again, I'm just trying to get the leg to lay as flat as possible on the paper and tracing around key points. I find trousers pretty hard to make from scratch, so I'm hoping that these turn out alright. I also want to make them a little bit more fitted, but I think that might be something that I have to reassess once I've made up a toile, I guess. So the front of the jumpsuit has pockets in, and also a dart. So when I'm marking out my waistline, I'm marking the position of the dart, how wide the dart is, and I'm adding that back into my waistline. So I'm adding space back in for the dart, I'm adding that back into the waistband, and I'm also marking how far over the pocket is and just sketching out the edge of the pocket. So for the front of the trousers, I will draw on the shape of the pocket. Again, I'm going back and I'm checking all my measurements to check that they are as close as possible to the original jumpsuit, especially when it comes to the crotch seams, because that can quite easily go wrong and I don't want that. And also, like, the front and the back trouser legs match up together really well at the moment, and I don't want to do anything that would change that. So I'm just adding a notch here for where my pocket will finish, and just making a note that that's for my pocket, and then I'm going to draw on the pocket shape to the front of the trousers. And then I need to make a pocket lining and an inner pocket as well. So I'm going to trace over that shape that I've created, as that will need to be consistent across the other two pieces of the pocket. So I've traced off the shape of the trouser leg, the shape of the waistband, and the pocket. So that is going to be my pocket. Just adding a seam allowance now, and then I'm also going to use this to trace off my pocket lining. So the pocket is for the pocket you basically need 3 pieces. So I'm tracing the curve off the trouser panel, and then I'm going to trace the rest of the pocket shape off the other pocket panel to create the pocket lining. So for this jumpsuit, I'm just going to cut everything out in the same fabric, but for the black jumpsuit, the pocket lining and the 2 pocket inners were made of like a polyester fabric, but for this one I'm just going to use the same fabric. So there we are, that's how they line up. Alright, now for the back legs. And these are fairly straightforward. I did the same that I did for the front. Again, there's a dart in the back waistband of the trousers. Also, with the darts in the waistband in the front and the back, in the original jumpsuit, these match up with the dart in the back of the top and the seam in the front of the top. So I want to try and make sure that mine match up as well. So I will double check those measurements and check that that all fits together around the waist. So once I'd finished creating my pattern, I laid all my pattern pieces like back on top of each other to check that seams that were meant to go together still went to go together and still were the same length. I also checked the width of the back trouser wasn't too much wider than the width of the front. So my next step, once I've traced off this pattern, is I could either make up a toile, so I could make up one in like a really cheap fabric, or I could just go for it and make it in the original fabric, try it on, and then make any amendments, and then any adjustments I make to the garment once it's on. If I make sure to come back to my pattern and make those changes on my pattern as well, then in the future I will know that I can just cut the pattern out straight away and the garment will already be how I want it. So next up to cut out on this lovely tencel fabric. So whenever I'm cutting out pattern pieces, I always put my biggest pattern pieces down first, and then I lay my smaller pattern pieces around them, and making sure that I've got like enough room on the fold for pieces that need to go on the fold. So I'm not going to focus too much on the construction of this jumpsuit because, to be honest, it was fairly straightforward. As usual, when I'm constructing something, I start with the darts first, and then I made up all the top, and then I made up all the trousers. So yeah, this video is mainly on how to create the pattern by tracing off a garment you already own. So if you need any more sewing tips, be sure to go and watch my other videos. If you're enjoying this video so far, leave me a comment to let me know what you think. I've got some culottes that I would like to copy and a dress as well. So like I said before, I may create a little mini series out of this. Also, the original jumpsuit had a facing around the top as well, and I'm going to also create a facing because this jumpsuit is not lined, so I need something to finish off the neckline and the armholes, etc. So I just used the pattern pieces I'd already created to create my facing. Again, this is something I've done a lot in previous videos, so if this is something you're unsure on how to do, be sure to check out previous videos. This jumpsuit really didn't take me that long to sew once I'd worked out the pattern. It was mainly just the pattern that took the longest, because I knew that I would probably need to make alterations as well. I didn't worry about finishing the seams too much, so I literally was just sewing it together with straight seams, with straight stitch, sorry, and I'll probably go back and either zigzag edge over my seams, French seam them, or overlock them as well. Probably overlock because it's the quickest and easiest. But I mainly just wanted to make it up quickly to check whether my pattern worked. Okay, so I am just trying these trousers on because I want to make sure that they are all good before I start sewing the top onto them. So I'm pretty happy with the fit around my back waist, and then I need to correct a mistake I made on the trousers. So basically on this leg, as you can see, there's a lot of overhang here. That's because I've made the back panel too big, and it's much better on this side. That's a much better silhouette. Ideally I'd like this to come down a bit further, but it fits me pretty well on the waist at the moment. It's just pinned at the back because I haven't got a zip, but I'm wondering whether I take it in a little bit more here and then taper it out a little bit more at the bottom. Obviously they are way too long at the moment and way longer than the original jumpsuit. This is because it's coming into winter, so I wanted a full length trouser, so I just left them really long, and then I'm going to trim them down. So I'm going to mark on it now where I want to trim them down and where I want to taper the leg in a little bit more. It is very difficult to pin on yourself, but if you can see there, just pinned in the outer seam slightly, and then I've also put a couple of pins in the inner leg seam as well, just to taper it a bit more over my waist and my hips, and then hopefully it'll flare out towards the bottom. And I've also pinned down here the kind of length I think it should be. So what I'm going to go and do is I'm going to take these off now, make those alterations, try them back on, and then I'll also mark those alterations on my pattern, so when I come to make this jumpsuit in the future, it's just ready to go and I don't need to do all of this. So now I've pinned in those alterations, I am just going to trim off a bit of the excess fabric on the length and just like double check it now it's flat and make sure that I get it kind of straight and even all the way around. And I'm also just gonna, because I pinned it on the outside, I'm just going to turn it inside out and mark the points where all the pins are with some tailor's chalk. So I can just transfer those marks onto the inside of the jumpsuit so you don't see it, and then make those alterations. So something that I haven't done yet is I need to go back to my pattern and mark these on my pattern as well. So I would do this just by lying the jumpsuit back on the pattern and just marking it kind of in the same way that I did before, or measuring it and making a note of how much I took out of each seam. So I'm just going to quickly take the trousers in. Okay, so once those are done, it's time to go and try it on again. Also, once I've altered the trousers, I'm going to join the top as well, so I can try the whole thing on as one jumpsuit. So here is the jumpsuit. It's nearly done, but as you can see, these need shortening, and I'm just pinned in it at the moment because I haven't got a zip. I realised that this morning when I started to make it, that I didn't have a zip. And then I still need to hem the bottoms as well. But other than that, I'm really happy with the fit of it. It's pretty similar to the one that I wear all the time. So yeah, so I know that it is a piece that I will wear a lot, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, considering it was just like sketching it onto paper. So I think once it's finished, I will probably wear it a ton. So yeah, I think I may end the video here. It needs a press. So it needs the zip put in, the bottoms hemmed, and the shoulder things shortened, and it needs a press. So nearly finished. So I think I'm going to end this video here, and then I will finish the jumpsuit off when I get the zip as well. But hopefully this has shown you how you can copy your own clothes. So if you have a piece that you love and you wear all the time, then instead of buying a new one, you can copy it and make it yourself out of fabric that you may have lying around, or like I did, a more sustainable fabric option. Also, the piece that I brought from New Look, I brought like 5 or 6 years ago now, so obviously it isn't still in stores. So I think I would have brought another one at the time, but as they still aren't in stores and I no longer support the fast fashion brands, then that is why I have chosen to make one for myself. Thank you so much for watching this video. I am probably going to make a little mini series of these because I have loads of items of clothing in my wardrobe that I absolutely love and I would like more colours of. So yeah, I'll probably show you this again. If there was anything you wish I had included in this video, let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to my channel as I upload new videos every week, pretty much. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next week.